introduce myself.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Book with Career Madricha, and we're here today with Michele Moskowitz, who's the head of organizational effectiveness at a financial technology company in New York City. And Michele has graciously given us some of her time to talk about her career and her story. So what I will do is turn it over to Michele. She'll introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her background and what a day in her life looks like. We'll go through some questions, and then feel free to post any questions that you all have in the chat box or in the comments, and we'll do our best to respond. So Michele, over to you. Tell us about your background and what your day looks like.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be speaking to everybody about what I do. I'm really excited about my job and always have been, so it's a great honor to be able to talk to people about it. My role right now is head of organizational effectiveness, and that kind of means a lot of different things, but essentially I like to describe it as working as an internal consultant within my company to help improve performance, whether that's team performance or individual performance, try to identify opportunities throughout the organization, whether it's with people, process, or technology, to help us all improve. And I know that, from my own personal experience, and I'm sure anyone in the working world can relate to this, that we've all had bad jobs and bad work experiences, and it affects you so much when you don't feel satisfied with your own performance, when you don't feel like you're achieving, the best possible results. And to have someone from the outside come in and say, we want to help you, we want to make you perform as the best way you can, the team to perform in the best possible way, we want the organization to succeed, and help the individual or the team achieve their goals, just makes your personal experience so much better. So my background and what led me to kind of this role was a little bit convoluted, but I think I was kind of always in the same kind of stream of a career. I started out in Rutgers doing an industrial engineering undergrad. Industrial engineering is a little bit different than most of the engineering disciplines, where the study of industrial engineering is really thinking about work and the study of work and how to improve and optimize the work that you do. And so applying that background directly into the financial services world, which is where I work now, and actually the industry I've always been in, has been a great experience for me. So starting out in different financial institutions and then moving into consulting in a management consulting capacity, and then eventually moving to the company that I'm in now, I've kind of had the opportunity to always do that same type of function of thinking about how can work be improved. And more recently, I've taken a shift from thinking more about operations and technology to thinking about people and how do we make the work life of people better. But it's still somewhat in the same space.
That's great. So you get to essentially solve all kinds of problems that people might have and potentially prevent them from happening.
Yeah, I mean, prevention is a big part of it. A lot of times people are so busy with the day-to-day that they don't think ahead to the future. So planning for the future, understanding what are the needs of the organization, what are the needs of the team members, and helping managers plan for that is a piece of what I do. My normal day is very varied. I spend a lot of time in meetings, but meeting with people and listening is a big part of my job, because in order to understand what the problems are and what the challenges people are facing, it requires me to do a lot of listening. So I've really developed my interview skills, not necessarily interviewing for hiring, but interviewing for understanding. And being an active listener is a skill set that I've had to learn. But it's valuable to be able to really hear what people are saying and empathize with them, and then really try to understand the environment they're operating in. So most of my meetings are of that nature, whether I'm working with a team to help them improve, or it's just a colleague that says, hey, Michele, can you help me out with this? And we chat for a little while and I give some advice and guidance. It's a lot of listening, reflecting, and then giving recommendations for improvement.
I find that so interesting, because in the work world, especially in corporate environments, and some of you might have seen movies about this, where the mean consultants come in from the outside and they fire people, or they decide that robots should replace your job. When external consultants come in, it takes them a good while to really absorb the culture of the company, to understand the history and what's worked in the past. And very often when they make a suggestion, people are like, oh, you're an outsider, you don't really know what goes on here. And then everyone who does their job on a day-to-day basis is so embedded in their work that they aren't able to take a step back and really see things with the big picture. And that sounds exactly like what you do. So you have the benefits of understanding the internal culture, but yet you have the luxury to step back and provide some guidance to your teams. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and that what you pointed out is exactly one of the reasons why I left consultancy. Not only did I find the travel and the work hours a little bit extensive as my family was growing, but I also recognized that when you're a consultant, you're kind of in and out. You don't necessarily have the relationships to be able to, and the credibility to make the same type of recommendations as if you're part of the organization and have part of the world that you're changing. So I consider myself like an in-house consultant. You often think of lawyers as kind of working with a firm or going in-house. I often describe what I've done in my career as similar, that I was on the outside looking in, and then I've moved in-house. And I find that it's so much more rewarding to be part of an organization, and I'm really fortunate. I feel really fortunate that my company values that role enough that they have a full-time person working on it. It's me, and I have someone else on my team, and that's our 100% job. So it really is a unique opportunity.
That's amazing. So tell us what you love most about your job. What's the, I know you've alluded to it a little bit already, but what is the success or accomplishment that you're most proud of?
There are a number of accomplishments that I feel very proud of, but they all revolve around the same theme, is really just helping people perform better and feel better about their jobs. There was a situation very recently where there was a team in our company who they really weren't performing well. They weren't meeting the expectations of their customers, their internal customers that they support. The management was frustrated. The team members were frustrated. Leadership of the organization was frustrated. Everyone was pointing fingers at each other. It really was a very frustrating experience for everybody. And I was asked to get involved and kind of take a look at what's going on and what are the problems. They had tried different things and nothing seemed to be working. And when we started to talk to people and really listen to what the problems are, we realized that the group that was being criticized for underperformance, they were underperforming, but they also didn't have the tools that they needed to do their job effectively, and they didn't have good processes in place to allow them to communicate with one another and communicate with their clients. They weren't necessarily getting the right leadership from their management. So yes, the perceptions were accurate, they weren't performing, but it wasn't that the individuals weren't good individuals. Everyone was trying their hardest to do a great job. It took someone from the outside perspective to see what was going on and then advocate for them. And we've been effective at making changes and making investment in the technology they use, making changes in their management structure, making changes in the structure that they have as an organization and how they work. And their clients are now seeing that change is happening, that performance is improving. They're all, as individuals on the team, feeling much more satisfied with their job because they were working really hard and just being told they weren't doing good enough. And now they're being supported in their work. So they're still doing the same job, but they're actually achieving the results that the organization's looking for. And it makes me feel really good that I've been part of that.
How great is that? I mean, I've seen in so many companies where managers will just say, you know what, these people aren't working out, let's just fire them or give them, a severance package, let them find other jobs. And that costs a lot of money, right? Because you're paying them out, you also have to hire new people, you have to wait till they can get up to speed and train them. So working with your team to enhance their performance is a great business driver. So that's awesome. That is really great. Question for you, and this is an interesting one that I love to ask here. So very often when you look at people that you know who seem really good at their jobs, you say, wow, they're just so great at their job. And it seems to come so naturally. Everything seems to come naturally. And we all know that some aspects of our jobs do come naturally, but others we really have to work at and either learn new skills or just really try hard until we master something. Can you share some aspects that come easily to you, but others that you may have had to work on to achieve the success that you have today?
Sure. For me, it was really having a background in engineering, which is a very analytical discipline, put me in the position to really enter an environment and assess information and analyze it very, very quickly. And that was something that has always been very easy for me. But what I found in the working world is that having some of the softer, what people categorize as the softer skills, are really what differentiates the people that advance in their careers from the people who don't advance in their careers. That you may be good subject matter expert in your particular field, but if you're a poor communicator and you're not a good listener and you have difficulty incorporating feedback and interacting with different individuals from different backgrounds, it's going to be hard for you to be successful in your career. So for me, having such a strong math science background, coming into the working world, I've really had to work on my communication skills, whether that's verbal communication skills or written communication skills. And as I mentioned before, active listening is a big part of what I do. So just getting better and honing those skills have really allowed me to advance in my career. It's always surprising for me to kind of see the difference, even at work, between the people who can actually articulate themselves in a very coherent, convincing way and be persuasive and effective, working with different people, with different styles, understanding the politics of the organization and being able to navigate that. That's a skill that you have to learn and you develop. Nobody really teaches you that. So that's really what I've had to work on, in my career.
That's great. And some of it comes with time, right? Some of it is just life experience, right? That you gain, being exposed to new situations. But you bring up something so interesting, because many of us remember back from when we were in high school and maybe we didn't love our math or science classes. And we said, well, how am I ever going to use this in real life? I'm not going to be a scientist. I'm not going to be a mathematician. But I think what you brought up is so interesting, because sometimes learning certain disciplines really give us the foundation to be successful. So even if we don't use the information in our day-to-day, it teaches us how to think, right, and approach problems and solve them in different ways.
Yeah, no, it really does. And it's clear to me sometimes what people's backgrounds are from working with them just because of their strengths. There's a colleague of mine that I work very closely with who is an incredible writer, and we complement each other very well because I have really strong analytical capabilities and he has really strong writing capabilities, and when we work on projects together, it works very well because we complement each other's strengths. So I think another thing that I've learned is that, you want to surround yourself with people that complement your skill sets and work in teams where where you can lean on people and they can lean on you, and that's part of the collaboration process.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us how you got to where you are today. What were some of your career aspirations when you were in high school, when you were in college? Would your 16-year-old self ever imagine that you'd be in this job today?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I don't know. I think my 16-year-old self would be pretty pleased. I've always been very kind of clear on not necessarily what I do, but the work environment that I worked in. And I have to say that when I was in high school and college, my aspiration was to work in an office in New York. I mean, that was pretty much it. I wanted to work in an office. And a couple of years out of school, I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to actually have my own office. And I felt, I made it. That's it. I'm done. I achieved my goal. This is terrific. And then I realized that I need another goal. Yeah, that was great. I've hit that milestone, but what's my next goal to be? I don't think I ever defined when I was younger exactly what I wanted to do, but I was always very self-aware in terms of the environments that I liked. I knew very early on that medical field was not for me. I did not enjoy being in hospitals. I didn't like studying biology. That was just not for me. I understood very early on that teaching wasn't for me. I respected my teachers, but it wasn't something I could ever imagine myself doing. But when I was in a work environment, a business environment, dressed in business attire, going to meetings, there was something about that environment that attracted me, and that was really what led me kind of down my path. And then over time, again, being self-aware, I started to realize, and I tried out different job functions, when I was younger, and realized, this really isn't for me. I don't really enjoy doing this work. Yes, I'm in an office in New York, and yes, I'm wearing business clothes every day, but the work I was doing, day in and day out wasn't exciting to me. Yet working on projects, whether it was in technology or operations, was really interesting, and I felt like it was a challenge to help solve problems. So I kind of just, again, was very self-aware and let myself experience something and then reflect on, well, how do I feel about that? And I'll never forget, actually, my father, when I was looking for colleges to go to, we would go on the tours of the colleges, and he would say to me, look around. Imagine yourself here. Look at the kids. Can you imagine yourself being friends with these people? Could you imagine yourself hanging out in the student center here? And if you can't picture yourself here, for some reason, your gut instinct is telling you, like, it just doesn't feel comfortable. This isn't the right place for you. And that really taught me very early on. I've applied that advice, many times in my career to say, how do I feel here? I've been very attuned to my feelings and kind of let that navigate me, through different choices that I've had to make.
That's so insightful. And I think we should all remember that we don't have all the answers right away, right? So some of us might choose and say, we want to work in an office, or some might say, I want to work in a hospital, and I'll figure out the what later on. And then others figure out the what first, and they say, I want to be a software developer, or I want to be a social worker. And then they end up choosing whether it's in a school or a hospital or a corporation later on. So that's a really good call out. It's the what you do and the where you do it. And sometimes you need both to really to be fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think that we often put a lot of pressure on ourselves, at least I know I did, at every decision point, to try to, I was always so concerned, what if I made a mistake? It had to be the right decision. But the truth is that things change. Your life changes, jobs change, and you have to make a decision based on what's right for you at that moment, and know that, in the future, you can change. Everything is changeable.
Yeah, no, that's great. So shifting gears a little bit, you're a mom and you have some great kids. Tell us how you juggle work and life. I don't like talking about balance because I don't think everything ever is perfect, but there's always that juggling that goes on, and very often we have to shift focus, whether it's for an hour, a day, a month, or a year, when something changes either in our work or in our life. So tell us about that.
It's hard. It's definitely not easy. It's something that kind of takes a lot of practicing and never get right. Just when you think you have everything, I'm going to use the word balance, but balanced in a way that you feel comfortable with, think something changes and it becomes unbalanced. So getting used to the fact that it's never going to be perfect and accepting that is a big part of it. But I think the three things that have really helped me juggle everything is, one is, managing my expectations. Again, kind of thinking nothing is ever going to be perfect, and striving for perfection. I'm never going to achieve that. So being realistic about what I can expect, and what my husband can expect, and what my kids can expect, and being communicative about that is really important. I think, two, one of the lessons that I've learned from work, and I apply that to my personal life all the time, is focusing on my core competencies. Businesses are always thinking about what's my core competency. I need to outsource other capabilities. As an individual, I have strengths, and I need to outsource the things that I'm not strong at. So a great example that we have in our home is, I hate doing laundry. That's the last thing I want to be thinking about is laundry, but my husband actually enjoys it. He doesn't mind it. He goes to the laundry room, he puts in his earbuds, he listens to a shear or whatever he wants to listen to while he's folding, and he's happy. To him, that's like some alone private time where he can unwind, and he gets the laundry accomplished. And for me, it's the last thing in the world I would want to do. So, I've kind of said that's not for me, and I try to do that at different points in my life with whatever the challenge is. What do I really need to do? What can I focus on? Where can I add value? And then whether it's at home or at work, getting other people engaged and involved to manage the rest. And I think the third one is that I happen to be very organized by nature. I'm a very organized person, and I try to think about how can I make the house run efficiently? How can I make the house organized in a way that encourages tidiness and efficiency, and I'm always looking for improvements in whatever the systems are in our home. And I guess because of my engineering background and systems background, I see everything as an operational process that can be improved. So I apply a lot of that to the house. And those are kind of the three areas that have helped me juggle everything. But again, nothing's perfect. I'm always dropping balls left and right. It's just the reality.
Never easy. Teamwork is dream work, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That is great. Thank you so much for sharing. So final question. What piece of advice would you offer young women in our community that are considering your area of focus, or any parting words to our audience?
I think someone who's interested in my area of focus should try to connect with other people who are in that space and try to get as much opportunity as they can to really experience it. Again, I'm kind of an experience type person. That's how I feel things out, and that's worked very well for me. But think about what type of experiences have been effective for you in making decisions. So is it talking to people? Is it visiting a work environment? Is it doing research online? Whatever it is that allows you to kind of get a feel for that field that you're interested in going into is a good first step to explore. And in my space, it's a little bit of a like organizational development, sometimes an HR type department, internal consulting, management consulting. There's a lot of different ways to approach the type of work that I do, depending on kind of where you're coming from. I'm always happy to answer questions that anybody has, but again, I think reaching out to people that you know and networking is really the best way to kind of figure out if a field is the right field for you.
Thank you so much, Michele. That was really great insight. We appreciate your time. And if anyone has questions, remember, you can type them in the chat box or the comment section, and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.